Hey, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Unshakeable show. It's great to have you with us. Thank you for joining us. Tonight, we have a very special guest. We have Gillian Beasley with us, who is the CEO of Cambridgeshire County Council. Welcome to you, Gillian. It's great to have you here.
Hello, it's an absolute joy to be with you today, and thanks for inviting me onto this.
Pleasure. Tell us a little bit about yourself, if you don't mind, a bit of background. How did you get to the position that you're in now? What was your journey to get here?
Wow. So that goes back quite a few years, actually. So I'm a lawyer by profession, actually. And many years ago, I joined local government as a trainee solicitor, and I caught the bug, really, of public service. I liked the fact that the work that I did made a difference. And actually, I specialised in those early years in child protection, childcare, education, and adult social law, that kind of area. And caught the bug of that and did that for about 15 years, actually. Then life moves on, and I had the opportunity of moving up the management ladder and so manage a legal team. Heart was always in that kind of community-facing social care, children's work, but I've always kept my interest in that. But I did become a head of legal services, and then I moved to Cambridgeshire. I was at Cambridgeshire at that time, and I moved to Peterborough. Eventually there, the chief exec role came up, and when you become a chief exec, and that was in 2002, you can't be alone. I had to turn my back on my legal career and become a chief executive. And then in 2015, the job in Cambridgeshire came up, so they combined the two roles and asked me to be joint chief exec. So I never lose my passion for the law, because I am a lawyer after all, but my passion is about how we work, support communities, and how we provide the best services we possibly can, and that's a passion.
Wow, that's a full-on job then.
Yeah.
Not only Cambridgeshire County Council, but you are the CEO as well of Peterborough. Is that correct?
Yeah,
That's the way it works?
I think it's the largest chief exec role in the country now, actually. Yeah. So,
wow.
But it works because if you think about it, the Cambridgeshire Constabulary, our health services, our fire services are all over Cambridgeshire and Peterborough. Although the councils are entirely sovereign and separate, obviously there are no boundaries around people and how they live their lives, and so it made sense in a way that both that the councils were led by a joint chief exec, and actually my whole management team now across Cambridgeshire and Peterborough are joint appointments. So it made sense, and it has worked. I've been doing this since, as I say, October 2015, so I'm still here.
Yeah,
very good.
We're going to talk in a few minutes about COVID-19, but apart from that, if we can ever remember a world without,
exactly.
in such a short space of time, but what were the biggest challenges that you would have said for the county before or outside of COVID-19?
I think it's always been maintaining good quality services to the most vulnerable in society, and the financial situation we found ourselves in after the economy collapsed in about 2008, 2009, and making sure that those services held up and were available and were good services as well. And my relationship with you at C3 Church is about how the public sector works really well with the faith communities and with voluntary services, because we know we couldn't do everything. And we also know that organisations such as yourself are much closer to their communities, they're trusted. And so I think, that maintaining that challenge of keeping the most vulnerable and the most needy properly served and so they didn't fall through the net, that's always a challenge day in, day out. And that was certainly the case as far as I'm concerned. Finances and maintaining good quality services was, I think, the key issues we were facing.
Yeah.
Okay.
And do you think the virus now with COVID coming in, has that heightened some of the issues? What changes have you seen because of the virus happening?
Well, there have been some big changes in the way that we're operating now. Apart from anything, we're in what we call a command and control structures. So they've invoked the emergency provisions in the Civil Contingencies Act 2004. So actually the way that we respond as a Cambridgeshire and Peterborough community is through what we call a local resilience forum, a group that comes together under that act and is charged with managing the emergency and also the recovery from the emergency. So we're already in a different kind of decision-making structure. We get thousands of pages of guidance from government over the last few weeks. We understand that, we operationalise it, then we task people to do it. It's no writing long plans anymore. You read the guide, understand it, and then you effect it. And I think the critical thing is the way society has changed, the social distancing and the fact that people now can't leave their homes, or they're self-isolating, or they're in this new shielded group where they have particular health issues that they have to self-isolate for 12 weeks. And so instead of having people who we are in day-to-day contact with, they're at home, and we are charged with the responsibility of making sure that people in those groups are vulnerable and shielded have food, have medicines, but both the fact that they're one step removed from us creates its own challenges. And so we have what we call a central hub where we have all the names of those that are shielded, and we have been given food from government, where we had food deliveries, but we're also in contact with them to make sure that they are properly served, that they get food, that they get medicines. And also I think it's, that was just the kind of brief from government, but actually it's more than that. It's about, how their mental well-being and health is, because being at home, not going out, we know is a real challenge for them. So actually keeping in contact with them. So we've set up 150 people are now calling them on a weekly basis, checking they're okay, because although they might have had a food parcel 1 week and say they're okay, we're not just interested in whether they've got food or medicines, we're interested in how they are. Somebody briefed me this morning, we're actually doing some work with them on their mental health well-being. We're doing some digital learning, some games, some books and that kind of thing. So you can't just give people food and medicines. It's got to be a bigger and a broader response to that, and that's much challenging when people are at home, they can't go out, and you can't touch them or see them. So it's presenting its own challenges, undoubtedly, and it's a massive operation that we've got going across Cambridgeshire at the moment.
Sure. And is it that based on volunteers? Is that reliant on volunteers?
Yeah, I mean, it is. I mean, that's been, in the midst of all of this, and the world is just so changed, what is heartening is the number of people who've come forward to volunteer. So we've got our own staff who are not deployed on critical services, who have been deployed into what we call the hub. District councils have had volunteers, because obviously you're sitting in Cambridge City Council's area. They've had massive response of people who are volunteering for them. So, and people have been completely selfish. Altruism is at the moment, which is lovely to see. And in the midst of what could be a very gloomy and very dark place that we're in, you see those volunteers who are prepared to go, not only the extra mile, thousands of miles to actually help people out. And we have not been short of volunteers. That's been brilliant, actually. So we are able to touch and to reach out to people and to support them, and make sure that they get what they need. And that isn't, as I say, just food and medicines. It's the more broader needs that people have in this situation. This week and last week, we launched a new campaign about how important it is to still talk. And we're doing this remotely and on my own, and I haven't seen my daughter or my mother, but keeping in contact with them, just checking that they're okay, and talk, just having a chat.
Absolutely.
Have a virtual chat with my friends with a cup of tea, and we
no, we have to do it.
But everybody's doing that. But we shouldn't underestimate the impact, really, and it's the impact also on people we're seeing who've lost their jobs or are worried about whether they've been furloughed, whether they're going to get a job to come back. So I think we will have a new set of issues as a society as we go forward, and we've really got to think about what we do with those issues and how we don't turn them into a real problem. We turn them into an opportunity, so we don't lose the volunteers. We keep those volunteers, we keep them connected with communities, with older people, with people who are vulnerable. So it's keeping that civic society that we've really developed going, but it's also making sure that people who are very vulnerable are looked after and properly served.
I mean, maybe you've answered this question in something you just said there, but how would you say that the likes of us as faith groups and churches can best respond and be of service to our community at this time?
Well, I think you do it on a number of levels, actually. I was so impressed over the Easter weekend about how inventive and innovative you were getting the services going. And that I do think that spiritual side is really important, and I think that's underestimated. And I heard one man say how he was just could not wait for the day where he could walk back into his church and
Right.
and get that kind of collective
Yeah.
feeling. But you know, so we saw the services being conducted from kitchen tables and across. So I do think that is something that bonds people, and you know, it's really, really important that their faith and their spirituality is attended to during this. And you're doing I mean, the invention is incredible, and I know you are doing some fantastic things. But it's also on the side of, you know, you are close to the communities that you serve. You do know people really well. You do know their needs, and you are trusted. And I've seen some of the things that you're doing, and it's fantastic. And it means for us that we can target the ones that the government want us to do, and we know that people won't fall through the net.
Yeah.
And we know we can call on you, and that is what's so lovely. Is that
Sure, yeah.
we can't cover things. We've got people we can call on. We trust. You trust us, and together, and it is a together thing. We can make sure the most vulnerable in our society do not suffer in this, you know, time.
Yeah, that's great.
absolutely.
That partnership is really important to us as well.
It
so
is.
I really appreciate that.
Yeah,
trust that is
yeah,
mutual there.
yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Do you think there are any lessons that are coming through that can be learned as we go forward that we may have to do differently in the new normal, as everyone's talking about, beyond this? Is there something?
Well, I think, yeah, I think that, I mean, I do think it has made us think about ourselves as a human race and our vulnerability.
Mhm.
You know, a virus has literally shut down the world, and I think if we reflect on those things properly and about the human species and our vulnerability, and then we would be missing something. And I think also flowing from that is you know, that actually we do have to look after each other. We absolutely have to care, you know, and think about each other's welfare and respect. And I think it also has made me think, when you look at things like Inventor Fisher coming back, our environment, and you know, because you know, one of the things my friends have been saying, well, I've got lots, you know, I have got some resources because I've been spending money, but we do consume, we do buy.
Yeah.
Might make us reflect on that side of our world where, you know, we just spend money because there is a nice, bright, shiny new thing there. We've done with. Do we really need to consume, and should we just start to think about how much we should care for other people and look after them, and hope that side is what we develop, rather than go back to massive consumption and you know, his fear is that when all the restaurants open, everybody will flock and we'll have a party environment. And I think that actually we get some moderation and people start to rethink about their lives and how they live them in the future.
Here. Yeah, that's good thought.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. Is there any other areas we thought we must cover when we had Gillian on?
I think we're good, aren't we? I think you've.
Well, I'd love to end by saying just a big thank you to your church, to all the things that you're doing. I know about them, and I hope that you all stay really healthy and safe.
Thank you.
Really look forward to our future collaboration in the future, and for all that we've said together, that they come to fruition. And thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Well,
likewise, we have a number of people in the church who are employed as well with Cambridgeshire County Council, and they speak very highly of you and your involvement.
Well, that's kind.
And we pray for you. We pray for you.
Well, we welcome your prayers, and we thank you for those. And I will make sure that the rest of the team know about that too. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Take care. Keep safe.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone for joining us tonight, and do keep Gillian in your thoughts, and the whole Cambridgeshire County Council team. We're supporting them and the great work that they do. And don't forget, for everyone who's watching, we are
C3 wherever we are. Bye for now.
You're making so good. You're making